Do you have one of these? This one's mine. Whether you're a parent or grandparent, aunt, uncle, friend, a kid, I bet you care a lot about this next generation. I think about them often because I've been doing environmental work for more than 20 years, and the more I know, the more concerned I am about the world this next generation of humans and other species is going to inherit.
Don't get me wrong, this is an exceptional world with all the perfect conditions for life to flourish, as it has for 3.5 billion years. But here's what keeps me up at night. Over the past 150 years, human activity has created an unnatural buildup of greenhouse gases, throwing our perfect conditions way out of whack.
The longer we take to create solutions, the more challenging and costly it will be for future generations.
As we look at solving this crisis, we look here because we know we're burning too many fossil fuels to create energy to heat, cool, and power our homes and buildings. And in the process, we're emitting carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. And we look here because we know we burn too many fossil fuels to transport ourselves around, emitting more CO2. But we're missing one critical piece of the climate solution. We also need to be looking here and here, because we also burn a lot of fossil fuels and create greenhouse gases every time we extract, produce, consume, and dispose of our stuff.
All our stuff has a carbon footprint. The screen you're watching this on, the chair you're sitting in, the clothes you're wearing, the food you had for breakfast, your toothbrush, car, cell phone, bottles, boxes, bags, you name it.
More than 40% of our climate impact in the US comes from our stuff and our food. It's called consumption emissions. The more we buy stuff and keep throwing it away, the more energy it takes to make new stuff and the faster climate change accelerates.
If we're not looking at all the sources of our emissions, we're not looking at all the solutions either. That's why when we think about our climate crisis, we need to be looking at a three-part solution: smokestacks, tailpipes, and trash cans. Leading climate experts are warning that what we do in the next few years will determine the future. If we fail to take action now to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, we will have failed future generations and their chance to live peacefully and sustainably in years to come. Well, the good news is, and there is good news, there's something you and I and our communities could choose to do today to change the course on climate. Enter zero waste.
The solutions are so simple and impacting, future generations may wonder why we didn't start doing them a little sooner. So here are 4 easy things we can do now. If everyone on the planet used resources the way we do in the US, we'd need 5 planets to keep up. We can reduce our resource use to be within the planet's limits and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by redesigning packaging and products to use fewer resources more efficiently. And we can reduce use in our lifestyles by rethinking what we really need to meet our material needs, ditching disposables altogether, choosing reusables, repairing broken products, and sharing products instead of each of us owning. After we've reduced our use of resources, we need to get back to the basics and recycle, not just bottles and cans, but items like carpet, electronics, clothing, and concrete too. Recycling's been called one of the best kept secrets in climate change because it saves so much energy and reduces CO2 emissions. But Americans still only recycle 1/3 of their waste. If we make recycling a way of life with a recycling bin in every home, business, and school,
and if everyone does their part, we can take a bite out of CO2 emissions.
It's that simple and it's that important. Fully half of what we throw away is made up of biodegradable materials, including grass clippings, leaves, paper products, and food scraps. When buried in a landfill, those materials don't just break down the way they would in nature. They decompose anaerobically, without oxygen, and that generates methane. Methane isn't just a greenhouse gas, it's a climate powerhouse. It traps 84 times more heat in our atmosphere than carbon dioxide over the short term. That can really heat up the planet, and fast.
So instead of putting biodegradable materials here, we need to put them here, or here, in curbside or backyard composting bins.
If we do that, methane emissions coming from landfills are stopped cold. Instead of feeding our landfills with food waste and other biodegradable materials, let's feed our soils, which are desperate for nutrients. Soil can actually help pull carbon down out of the atmosphere. We all know planting trees can help absorb CO2 emissions, but healthy soil stores 3 times more carbon than trees, plants, or the atmosphere. Let's put compost back in the soil to help stabilize the climate. It's not just up to each of us to change. We need to change the systems around us and invest in infrastructure like recycling and composting plants instead of landfills and incinerators, and create policies that support their use. So, what do we get for investing in zero waste? All told, we can reduce our climate impact the equivalent of shutting down 20% of our U.S. coal plants.
And we can do it immediately and inexpensively. Adopting zero waste practices is one of the least expensive solutions we can begin to make progress on right away.
So that's our choice. We can either perpetuate the problem or prevent the problem and help reverse it. Not too tough a choice. Across the globe, communities are starting to get it, that they can choose to make change happen right away. They're adding zero waste as a critical part of their climate action plans, right up there with renewable energy and transportation. And that gives me hope, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to be part of a generation that blows it for the rest to come. I want to be a responsible adult the next generation can count on to protect them, to get realistic, roll up our sleeves, and make the tough choices. And the simple ones, to turn the tide and give them a livable future on a thriving planet.
Now that we understand the connection between waste and climate, we have a moral obligation to do something about it. And we can. So let's do it. Now.
Right?